Hey everyone, this is Dylan, and today I'm going to be doing a television show review for you guys. So the television show I'm reviewing today is Squid Game. So I know that I am very late to the party on Squid Game, and I hope that if you're watching this and you have not already seen the show, that you definitely go check it out because this is a really great show. So let's get into what this show is about. So we're following a group of characters who live in South Korea, and they are in extreme debt, and they're in debt so much so that they agree to take part in games for money. And it's all very mysterious. They don't really know what's going on until they do their first game. So they have their first game, which is the classic children's game, Red Light, Green Light. What the players don't know is that this game is deadly. So if you move at the wrong time, you will be shot and killed. And that's where I'm going to leave the synopsis. So I think that one of the strongest parts in this show is the production design, particularly with these games. They're extravagant, they're opulent. I mean, they're the visual signifier of this show. I mean, I think that if you could just show people stills from the show, they would know what the show was immediately without even watching the show if they've never seen it. Another one of the very strong points in the show are the characters. We spend so much time with the characters and we get to see a little bit of their backstory, and they do a really good job of humanizing these characters. Whereas in other similar movies, we get humanization of like our main characters, but many of the other characters are not really focused on very much, so we really don't care that much when they die. So we get great fleshed out main characters, and we also get some really good fleshed out side characters and auxiliary characters. So I really do appreciate that about the show. Another one of the things that I think is really a great part of the show is the critique of capitalism and that happens in the show, and I think that it's so smart. It's not something that's revolutionary because we've seen it done before with things like The Hunger Games, which is a bit similar. But this one is so interesting in that we have our poor people, our lower class, who are basically just pawns for the upper class, the game makers, to be able to play with and do whatever they want, and they don't care what happens to them. And I think that that is such a interesting symbolism to capitalism and what happens with a capitalistic society. I think that it is very smart that the show does it, and I think that they do it in a good way. As for one of the parts of the show that I thought was the worst was the VIPs. I think that there are several things that are issues with them. One of them is how they even got involved in this game. Like, this game takes place in South Korea, but none of these other people are South Korean. They all speak English. It's presumed that at least a few of them are from the United States, and then I think there might be one from South America, and then some other place, but it's like, I don't know how they got involved. The dialogue is really bad here, and I almost wonder if that's because this is a South Korean person who is writing for Western characters, but it was pretty bad. I think it was in part supposed to be bad because this whole like frat bro type talk is what we got a lot of, so I think that that was intentional, but it was just kind of weird and bizarre when it happened. Alright, so now I'm going to do a spoiler section, so you've been warned, this is your spoiler alert. So let's get into some of my favorite games in this show. So I think that the Red Light, Green Light is an iconic game. It's the one that everyone knows, basically, because when Squid Game blew up, it was just red light, green light everywhere. I think that the Honeycomb Challenge was the Dalgona Challenge was really cool. I think that it was super unique. It's not really something that we Western people have seen before, so I think that that's pretty fun, and I think that that was also something that kind of went viral from this show. I also really did like the stepping stone one with the glass panels. I think that that was visually one of the more interesting of the games. And then of course, Tug of War, I thought that that was a very striking visual. I mean, all the games were great. The only one that I didn't particularly like was the last one, the Squid game. Mostly because it's nothing that I've ever heard of before, and I think that the rules were a little complicated, or I just didn't understand the rules as well as I probably should have. But other than that, I think that the games were really great. And speaking of the games, we have the infamous Marbles game, which happens in episode 6. And this is an episode where, I mean, I had heard that some people were crying due to episode 6. I was like, it won't be that bad. I actually did tear up. I don't know if I actually had a tear escape my eyes, but I did tear up, and it wasn't for the old guy, number 1. It was for the girl who was playing with our main girl. And I'm not going to butcher their names. I feel bad that I'm not going to use their real names, but I just don't want to butcher them. It was the girl who was playing with our main girl, number 67. And their whole conversation was so heartbreaking because it actually seemed like they had been friends and that they were becoming friends, and we find out that one of them isn't going to make it, and it was just devastating. I think also the betrayal of Ali was really bad as well. He was just such an innocent and naive character, and he was so loyal to player 218 that it was just heartbreaking when we find out what's actually happening and that he is not going to survive this game. That brings me to O.L. Nam, who is player 1. He is the old man in the show, and this is the episode where he dies. I knew immediately, as soon as we did not see his body, that something was up with him, because I, as a avid movie watcher, most of the time, if you don't see a body, then that means that that character could come back in some way, and that is exactly what happens in this. And it is very strange, the whole story arc with this and how he comes back. Yeah, it's a weird thing. I will be interested to see how it plays out in the second season, because he's dead, presumably dead, that he died at the end of this season. And who has taken over as, like, I guess the main financier of this game? I will be interested to see how that plays out. So there are some plot issues that I have with this. Particularly the whole police guy and his brother plotline seemed to be that it went nowhere. I was a little upset that it didn't really go anywhere, because I think that the only reason that it was put in here is so that we could get the behind the scenes look at the games. And I do think that that was good, but I don't know if we needed to have this whole, like, this guy is looking for his brother turns out to be the game master, or I forget, the front man, and that his brother is the front man, only to get shot as soon as he finds out and die. I think that that was a waste of a character and a waste of a storyline. I also did not like the organ harvesting plotline. That just seemed really bizarre and also never went anywhere. Like, I don't quite understand why we needed to have it in this story, but I guess it's okay. I think that it was just too rushed. We didn't really get a good conclusion to it. Another thing that I think pretty much was not very good was our like epilogue. So after the games, when player 456 wins, and what happens after he leaves the place. I think that was all a bit of a misstep for the show. I think that it is not as good. I've seen the twist of him coming back, finding his mother dead just when he had won all that money. I've seen that twist before, and I'll talk about it in a second. But I think that the whole back half of this last episode was just pretty not good. I do think that the ending is interesting, because I wonder how he is going to, like, is he going to be a player in this next game? Is he maybe going to become a financier of the games, and he is going to kind of like try to destroy the games from within itself, or like what is going to happen with that whole scenario? This is a very similar show to some other big media things, and one of them in particular is As the Gods Will, which is a death games thing where these people are chosen and they have to compete in games. I did a review of it, so I'll put a little iCard up there, but it basically has the same idea. They don't really know that they're in this game until the first person dies, and then they like start freaking out, and they have to go through all these trials. I think that they are different for the most part. I think there is the very first game is kind of similar for both of them, which is kind of like a red light, green light. But this one is Korean, while the As the Gods Will is Japanese, I believe. And then we also have the American version of this, which is Would You Rather, which is a pretty indie movie, and I don't think a lot of people probably have seen it. It stars Brittany Snow as a character who is trying to get money for her sick brother who has cancer, and she goes and plays a game of Would You Rather. So that is it for this review. I want to end on my rating of the show, which I give this a 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this show. I didn't think that I was going to enjoy it as much. There was a lot of hype around the show, and I was like, well, it might not be that good. Because usually when there's a lot of hype around something, when you watch it and you end up being like, it really wasn't that good, I don't know why there was so much hype. But this show was actually really good, and I really did appreciate it, and I'm glad that I watched it and didn't be like, oh, I've already seen most of this stuff, so I don't need to watch this again. But that is it for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments down below if you've seen Squid Game, and whether you liked it or you didn't like it, and why. And remember, if you're not already subscribed and you'd like to be, please hit that subscribe button down below, and give this video a like if you liked it. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day. Bye.